Welcome to Calm Mind English. Sometimes the hardest kind of anxiety is the one you cannot explain. Nothing terrible is happening. No one is yelling. The room is quiet. The day is normal and still. Your body feels as if something is about to go wrong. This can feel confusing because your mind starts looking for a reason. You check your schedule. You think about your family, your work, your health, your money, your future. You search for the problem because the feeling seems too strong to be random. But anxiety does not always wait for a clear emergency. Sometimes it arrives in the middle of an ordinary moment. When you are washing dishes, driving home, sitting at your desk, or lying on the couch after a long day. It can come without a dramatic cause. Because the body is not only reacting to what is happening now, it is also reacting to what it has learned to expect. You may look around and think, nothing is wrong, but your chest is tight, your shoulders are raised, your breathing feels shallow, your stomach feels unsettled, and your attention keeps moving from one thought to another. This is where many people begin to blame themselves. They think they are weak, too sensitive, or unable to relax. They tell themselves they should be grateful because the situation is not actually dangerous. But guilt usually makes the body feel even less safe. A quiet room does not always create a quiet mind. A free afternoon does not always create rest. A safe moment does not always feel safe to a nervous system that has spent a long time preparing for pressure. Imagine someone sitting at home after work. The lights are soft. Dinner is finished. There are no urgent messages. The house is still. From the outside, it looks like a peaceful evening. But inside, the person feels a small wave of tension. It starts as a tight feeling in the chest. Then a thought appears. Did I forget something? Did I say something strange earlier? Is there a problem I have not noticed yet? The person checks the phone, then checks it again. Nothing important is there. They walk into another room, then forget why they went there. They try to watch something relaxing, but the mind keeps drifting away from the screen. This is not because the person is choosing anxiety. It is because anxiety can become a pattern of readiness. The mind and body begin to act like guards standing at a door, even when no one is trying to enter. When nothing is wrong, anxiety can feel even more disturbing. If there were a clear danger, the feeling would make sense. But without a clear danger, the mind turns inward and begins to question itself. Why am I like this? Why can I not just enjoy a calm moment? The answer may be simpler than it feels. Your system may not be responding to danger. It may be responding to uncertainty, memory, tiredness, pressure, or the habit of constantly staying prepared. For a long time, you may have lived in a mode where you had to keep track of many things. You had to answer messages quickly. You had to solve problems before they grew. You had to watch other people's moods. You had to keep moving, keep working, keep adjusting. Then, when life becomes quiet for a moment, the body does not instantly understand that the pressure has changed. It may still be waiting for the next demand. It may still be listening for the next sign that something needs your attention. This is why anxiety often appears during rest. When you are busy, the mind has something to hold. It can focus on tasks, movement, and external demands. But when the noise lowers, the hidden tension becomes easier to hear. A calm moment can reveal what was already inside the body. It did not create the anxiety. It simply gave the anxiety enough space to be noticed. This is important because it changes the way you respond. Instead of saying, "There is no reason for this," you can say, "My body is carrying a signal. I may not understand it yet, but I do not have to fight it immediately." That small shift matters. Anxiety becomes heavier when you treat it like an enemy that must disappear right away. It becomes slightly more manageable when you see it as a message from a system that is trying, in its own clumsy way, to protect you. Of course, this does not mean every anxious thought is true. It does not mean every tight feeling is a warning. Anxiety often speaks in a language of possibility, not reality. It says something could go wrong, even when there is no evidence that something is going wrong. The anxious mind often confuses uncertainty with danger. It looks at an unfinished task and imagines failure. It sees a quiet message thread and imagines rejection. It feels a small body sensation and imagines illness. It does this quickly, almost automatically. This can make normal life feel sharper than it needs to be. A small delay becomes a sign. A neutral expression becomes a problem. A quiet day becomes suspicious, as if peace itself cannot be trusted. But peace is not always familiar to a stress system. For some people, calm feels strange because their body is used to pressure. The absence of pressure can feel like waiting, and waiting can feel like danger. This is why the first step is not forcing yourself to feel calm. The first step is understanding that your reaction has a history. Your body may be responding from old training, not current reality. When anxiety appears and nothing is actually wrong, you do not need to solve your whole life in that moment. You do not need to analyze every thought until you find the perfect reason. You can begin by naming what is happening in plain language. This is anxiety. My body feels alert. I do not see a real emergency right now. That kind of sentence is simple, but it gives the mind a boundary. It separates the feeling from the facts. It does not deny the discomfort. It also does not allow the discomfort to become the entire truth. There is a difference between feeling unsafe and being unsafe. Anxiety often makes those two things feel the same. But with patience, you can begin to notice the difference. You can be sitting in a safe room and still feel anxious. You can have a normal day and still feel uneasy. You can have no clear problem and still feel pressure in your body. This does not mean your life is secretly falling apart. It may mean your system needs time to learn that calm is not a trap. It may mean your mind is still scanning, because scanning once helped you survive difficult seasons. It may mean your body is tired from carrying more than you realized. So when anxiety comes without a clear reason, try not to turn the moment into a courtroom. You do not have to prove whether the feeling deserves to exist. Feelings are not always logical reports. Sometimes they are leftover alarms. A leftover alarm is still loud. It can still interrupt your evening. It can still make your chest tight and your thoughts race. But it is not the same as a real fire. This is the beginning of a calmer relationship with anxiety. You learn to listen without obeying every alarm. You learn to notice without panicking about the noticing. You learn that a quiet, anxious moment is uncomfortable, but it can pass through you without becoming your identity. Nothing may be wrong outside. Something may still be asking for care inside. Both can be true. And when both are true, you do not need to choose between ignoring yourself and believing every fear. You can stand in the middle, gently and honestly, and say, "This feels uncomfortable, but I am here, and I can look at this slowly." There is a reason the mind keeps looking for problems, even in quiet moments. It has learned that staying alert can prevent pain. It has learned that if it notices the small signs early enough, maybe it can avoid shock, conflict, failure, or disappointment. This kind of learning often happens slowly. It does not always come from one big event. It can come from months or years of small pressures that taught you to stay ready. Maybe you lived through a season when there was always something to handle. A bill, a deadline, a family issue, a difficult workplace, a tense relationship, a health concern, or a future that felt unclear. Each problem may have been manageable by itself, but together they trained your mind to stay open, alert, and prepared. After a while, the mind begins to scan automatically. It checks the room. It checks people's tone. It checks the calendar. It checks the past and the future. It checks your own behavior, looking for mistakes that might become problems later. This scanning can feel like responsibility. It can even feel useful. You may tell yourself that you are simply being careful. And sometimes, being careful is helpful. But constant scanning has a cost. The mind that is always searching for danger begins to lose its sense of ordinary safety. It becomes skilled at finding what could go wrong, but less skilled at receiving what is actually okay. Think of someone checking messages in the morning. There is no bad news, but the mind does not relax. It wonders why someone has not replied. It reviews yesterday's conversation. It remembers a small sentence that sounded awkward. Then it imagines that the other person is upset. Nothing has happened, but the mind has already built a small emergency. This is not foolishness. It is prediction. The brain is always trying to predict what will happen next. If your recent life has been full of pressure, the brain may predict more pressure. If peace has often been interrupted, the brain may treat peace as temporary. That is why anxiety can show up when the day is calm. The calm does not match what your mind expects. Instead of trusting it, the mind becomes suspicious of it. This can be especially strong for people who grew used to emotional unpredictability. If you had to watch someone's mood, avoid conflict, manage expectations, or stay careful around criticism, your mind may have learned to read tiny signals. A pause, a facial expression, a short reply, or a change in tone could feel important. Later, even in safer relationships or calmer environments, the same habit continues. The mind keeps reading small signals as if they are warnings. It may not know how to stop, because for a long time, noticing small changes felt necessary. The hidden cause of anxiety is often not the current situation. It is the meaning your mind attaches to the situation. A quiet message does not simply mean a quiet message. It becomes a possible rejection. A small mistake does not simply mean a small mistake. It becomes a possible failure. A free afternoon does not simply mean rest. It becomes a space where all the unfinished worries rise to the surface. The mind is not only reacting to facts. It is reacting to interpretation. This is why two people can live through the same moment and feel very different. One person sees a delayed reply and thinks they are busy. Another person sees the same delay and feels their stomach tighten. The difference is not intelligence. The difference is learned expectation. If you have been disappointed many times, your mind may try to prepare you for disappointment before it happens. If you have been criticized often, your mind may search your own words for anything that could be judged. If you have had to be strong for too long, your mind may become afraid of letting go, because letting go feels like losing control. Anxiety often grows in the space between what happened before and what might happen next. It uses old pain to predict future danger. It says, "Be careful, because this has hurt before." That message is understandable, but it is not always accurate. The mind can overprotect you. It can try to keep you safe by keeping you tense. It can try to prevent surprise by expecting trouble. It can try to prevent mistakes by making you review every detail again and again. At first, this may seem like protection. Over time, it becomes exhaustion. A person who is always preparing for something bad cannot fully enter the present moment. Even when they are laughing, part of the mind is watching. Even when they are resting, part of the body is waiting. Even when people are kind, part of the heart is looking for the moment when kindness might disappear. This is how anxiety can become a private habit. It does not always look dramatic from the outside. The person may still work, talk, smile, answer messages, take care of family, and complete tasks. But inside, there is a steady background question. What am I missing? That question can become tiring. It makes ordinary life feel like a test. It makes rest feel irresponsible. It makes joy feel fragile. One important thing to understand is that the anxious mind often believes it is helping. It thinks that if it worries enough, it can prevent pain. It thinks that if it imagines every possible outcome, it will be ready. It thinks that if it stays tense, it will not be caught off guard. But worry is not the same as preparation. Preparation has a clear action. Worry often repeats without resolution. Preparation says, here is what I can do. Worry says, keep thinking, because maybe thinking will create safety. This is where many people get stuck. They keep thinking because stopping feels dangerous. They believe that if they stop worrying, they are being careless. But the truth is that worry does not always protect you. Sometimes it only makes you suffer twice. Once in imagination and once in reality if the problem actually comes. The goal is not to shame the mind for worrying. The goal is to teach it a new difference. Some thoughts require action. Some thoughts require comfort. Some thoughts require being left alone until they lose strength. When your mind says, what if something is wrong? You can ask a quieter question. Is there something real that needs action right now? If the answer is yes, take the next clear step. Send the message. Check the appointment. Write the note. Solve the small problem in front of you. If the answer is no, then the task is different. The task is not to solve an imaginary emergency. The task is to help the body return to the present. This takes practice because scanning can become very familiar. Your mind may return to the same worry again. It may ask for reassurance. It may want you to check one more thing, think one more time, or prepare one more explanation. In those moments, you can be firm without being harsh. You can say, I understand why my mind is checking, but there is no clear problem to solve right now. That sentence does not make anxiety disappear instantly, but it begins to weaken the old pattern. It tells the brain that not every feeling of danger needs a full investigation. A calm life is not built only by removing problems. It is also built by changing how your mind responds when there is no problem. Because if the mind keeps searching, it will always find something small enough to worry about. The deeper work is learning that you do not have to earn rest by checking everything first. You do not have to prove complete certainty before you allow yourself a peaceful moment. You do not have to treat every unknown as a threat. Life will always contain some uncertainty. The anxious mind wants to remove all of it before it relaxes. But real peace grows when you can live with a little uncertainty without turning it into danger. This is not easy. It is a learned skill. But the mind that learned to scan can also learn to soften. It learns through repeated moments of safety. It learns when you notice the worry and do not immediately follow it. It learns when you let a message stay unchecked for a little longer. It learns when you allow a small silence to be silence, not rejection. Over time, the mind begins to understand that not every quiet moment is hiding a problem. Some quiet moments are simply quiet. Some ordinary days are not waiting to collapse. Some feelings are old alarms, not present warnings. And when you see that, anxiety becomes less mysterious. It is not proof that something is wrong. It is often proof that your mind has been working very hard to protect you, even when protection is no longer needed in the same way. Anxiety is not only a thought, it is also a body state. This is why you cannot always think your way out of it. Your mind may know that nothing is wrong, but your body may still act as if something needs attention. This difference can be frustrating. You may tell yourself to calm down. You may repeat logical sentences. You may list the reasons why everything is fine. But the body does not always respond quickly to logic, because the body speaks through sensation, rhythm, and habit. The nervous system is built to protect you before you have time to think. If something seems dangerous, the body can become alert in an instant. The heart beats faster. Muscles tighten. Breathing changes. The stomach slows down. Attention narrows. This response is useful when there is a real threat. It helps you move, defend, run, speak, react, or prepare. But the same system can become activated by stress, memory, uncertainty, lack of sleep, caffeine, conflict, deadlines, and even long periods of emotional pressure. When the nervous system has been activated often, it may become easier to trigger. It is like a smoke alarm that has become too sensitive. A small amount of steam can set it off, even when there is no fire. This is why anxiety can appear when nothing is actually wrong. The alarm is real. The danger may not be. At night, this can become especially clear. Imagine lying in bed after a normal day. The room is dark. The body is tired. You want to sleep. But the brain feels awake, almost bright. Thoughts begin to move. Some are about tomorrow. Some are about the past. Some are strange and random. Your body feels restless, but you are not sure why. During the day, movement and tasks can cover the body's signals. At night, when everything becomes quiet, those signals become louder. The tight jaw, the raised shoulders, the pressure in the chest, the unsettled stomach, and the alert attention all become easier to notice. The body may be tired, but the nervous system may not feel safe enough to fully power down. This does not mean you are doing something wrong. It means your system may still be in protection mode. It has not received enough signals of safety, recovery, and completion. Stress hormones also matter. When the body expects pressure, it may release chemicals that help you stay alert. This can make you feel ready, focused, and awake. But when there is no clear task, the same alertness can feel like anxiety. The body wants to use the energy. It wants to solve something. It wants to move toward a target. But if there is no real problem, the energy turns inward. Then the mind tries to explain the sensation by creating worries. A tight chest becomes, something is wrong. A fast heartbeat becomes, I am not safe. A restless feeling becomes, I need to figure this out. In reality, sometimes the body creates the sensation first, and the mind creates the story after. This is an important insight. You may think you are anxious because of a thought, but sometimes the thought appears because the body is already anxious. The brain looks at the body's alarm signals and tries to find a reason. This is why physical care is not separate from mental care. Sleep, food, hydration, movement, sunlight, noise, screen time, and rest all affect the nervous system. A tired body is more likely to feel threatened by ordinary things. A depleted body has less space to handle uncertainty. Think about how different the same problem feels after a good night of sleep compared to after a broken night. The facts may not change, but the body's capacity changes. When the body is restored, the mind can see more clearly. When the body is drained, even small issues can feel sharp. Muscles also hold patterns. Many people carry anxiety in the shoulders, neck, jaw, stomach, or hands. They may not notice it because the tension has become normal, but the body notices. Constant muscle tension sends a message back to the brain that something may be wrong. This creates a loop. The brain feels alert, so the muscles tighten. The muscles stay tight, so the brain receives the signal that the body is still under pressure. The loop continues even when the outside situation is safe. Breaking this loop does not require dramatic action. It often starts with small physical signals repeated gently. Unclenching the jaw, lowering the shoulders, slowing the pace of walking, turning off a bright screen earlier, sitting with both feet on the floor, letting the body know that this moment does not require defense. These actions may seem too simple, but the nervous system learns through repeated signals. It does not need one perfect speech. It needs many ordinary moments that say, we are not in danger right now. Body memory is another part of this. The body can remember stressful patterns without words. A certain time of day, a type of silence, a smell, a room, a sound, or a feeling of waiting can bring back old alertness. You may not remember a clear story, but the body remembers the state. For example, a person may feel anxious every Sunday evening. Nothing bad is happening in that moment. But the body has learned that Sunday evening means the week is coming. Responsibilities are returning and pressure is near. The body reacts before the person has fully thought about Monday. Another person may feel anxious when the house is too quiet. The quiet should feel peaceful, but it reminds the body of times when silence meant tension. So the body stays alert, listening for what might happen next. This is why anxiety can seem irrational when it is actually associative. The body links moments together. It says, "This feeling is similar to a past feeling, so prepare." Understanding this can reduce shame. You are not strange for reacting to things that other people may not notice. Your body may have built associations that were once useful. Now they may need updating. Updating the nervous system takes time. You cannot force it to trust safety in one evening. Trust grows through experience. The body needs to feel safety, not just hear about it. This is why gentle routines can help. A regular sleep rhythm, a quieter evening, less rushing in the morning, steady meals, and small moments of movement can tell the body that life has structure. Structure reduces the feeling of hidden threat. The nervous system often relaxes when it can predict basic things. When sleep, food, movement, and rest are chaotic, the body has to work harder to adjust. That extra work can show up as anxiety. There is also a difference between stillness and recovery. Sitting still with a racing mind may not restore you. Lying in bed while scrolling quickly may not calm your system. Being physically inactive is not always the same as resting. Real recovery gives the body a clear signal that it can lower its guard. That may come from slow walking, quiet music, stretching, warm light, a simple routine, or doing one task at a time. The exact method can be different for each person, but the principle is the same. The body needs fewer threat signals and more safety signals. When anxiety appears without a clear reason, it may be helpful to ask, "What state is my body in right now?" Not, "What is wrong with me?" Not, "Why am I failing to relax?" Just, "What state is my body in?" Am I tired? Am I hungry? Have I been sitting too long? Did I drink too much coffee? Did I spend hours under bright light and constant information? Have I been holding my breath while working? Have I had any real quiet today? These questions bring anxiety back into the body, where it often begins. They do not solve every emotional issue, but they create a more complete picture. Anxiety is not always a sign that your life is unsafe. Sometimes it is a sign that your system is overloaded. Sometimes it is a sign that your body has been running too fast for too long. Sometimes it is a sign that your brain needs less stimulation and more rhythm. The body is not your enemy. It may be loud, uncomfortable, and confusing, but it is trying to protect you. It may simply need new evidence that protection is not needed in this moment. So when nothing is wrong but anxiety is present, try to include the body in the answer. Do not only argue with thoughts. Give the nervous system something steady to feel. A calmer body can create a calmer mind. Not instantly, and not perfectly, but gradually. One physical signal at a time. The alarm learns that it does not have to ring so loudly. In a safe room, Mina woke up before the alarm. The room was still dim, and the house was quiet. For a few seconds, she did not think about anything. Then a familiar tightness appeared in her chest, small but clear, like a hand closing around a piece of paper. She turned her head and looked at the clock. It was 6:12. She had planned to wake up at 6:40, but now her mind had already started. There was no emergency. Her phone had no missed calls. The weather outside was ordinary. Her workday would be full, but not unusual. Still, her body felt as if she was already late for something she could not name. She stayed in bed for a few more minutes, hoping the feeling would fade. Instead, her thoughts began arranging themselves into small worries. Did she reply to the message from yesterday? Was the report complete? Did she sound too cold during the meeting? Was there something she had promised and forgotten? By the time she got up, she felt as if she had already been working. In the bathroom, she brushed her teeth and looked at her face in the mirror. Nothing looked different. That almost made the feeling stranger. If someone saw her, they would think she was fine. Maybe a little tired, but fine. She made coffee and opened her laptop while the water heated. She told herself she was only checking one thing. But one thing became 5 things. A message, a calendar invite, a news headline, a small reminder. An unread notification from a store she did not care about. Her mind moved quickly from one item to another. None of them were serious, but each one pulled a little thread of attention. At 8:10, she sat at her desk and began the first task of the day. The task was simple. Read the document, make changes, send it back. She knew how to do it. She had done similar work many times. Still, she read the first paragraph 3 times. Her eyes moved across the words, but her mind kept checking the background. What if something else was more urgent? What if she was missing a message? What if someone was waiting for her? She opened her inbox again. Nothing new. For a moment, she felt embarrassed, even though no one had seen her. She closed the inbox and returned to the document. Her shoulders were already tight. Around noon, she walked outside to buy lunch. The air was cool. Cars moved along the road. People passed her with bags, headphones, and quiet faces. Everything looked normal. She wanted the walk to calm her down, but her body stayed slightly ahead of her, as if it were already reaching the next place. She noticed how fast she was walking and slowed down for half a block. Then she sped up again without meaning to. At the restaurant, the cashier asked a simple question, and Mina answered too quickly. The cashier did not seem bothered. But after she sat down, Mina replayed the moment. Did I sound rude? Did I seem impatient? She looked around. A man was eating soup near the window. 2 students were talking softly. A woman was scrolling through her phone while holding a paper cup. No one was thinking about Mina. But anxiety often feels like being watched by an invisible judge. She ate quickly, even though she had time. The food was warm, but she barely tasted it. Her phone rested beside the plate, screen facing up. Every few minutes, she looked at it. In the afternoon, a coworker sent a short message. Can we review this later? That was all. Mina stared at the sentence. There was no anger in it. No criticism. No clear problem. But her stomach dropped a little. The word review felt heavy. She typed, sure, then erased it. She typed, yes, of course, then wondered if that sounded too formal. She typed, sounds good, and sent it before she could change it again. For the next 20 minutes, she could not focus well. Her mind had turned a neutral message into a doorway. Behind the doorway, it imagined correction, disappointment, and the possibility that she had done something wrong. When the review happened, it was ordinary. Her coworker wanted to adjust 2 small details. They talked for 6 minutes. No one was upset. Nothing serious happened. After the call, Mina felt relief. Then she felt tired from the relief. This was the part people did not see. They saw the meeting end smoothly. They did not see the half-hour of tension before it. They did not see the way her body prepared for conflict that never came. They did not see how many small waves passed through her during a normal day. On the way home, she sat on the bus near the back. The evening light moved across the windows. Her reflection looked calm. She watched buildings pass and tried to let the day settle. For a few minutes, it worked. Then her mind opened another folder. Tomorrow's tasks. A family message she had not answered. A bill she needed to check. The strange feeling that she was behind in life. Even though she had done what needed to be done today. She looked at other passengers. Some looked tired. Some looked peaceful. Some looked blank in the way people look when they are going home. Mina wondered how many of them carried the same invisible noise. At home, she changed clothes and stood in the kitchen without moving. The apartment was quiet. There were dishes in the sink, but not many. A sweater rested on a chair. A notebook was open on the table. Nothing was wrong. That sentence came to her again. Nothing is wrong. But instead of calming her, it made her feel alone with the feeling. If nothing was wrong, why did she still feel this way? She washed the dishes slowly. Warm water ran over her hands. The small sounds of plates, water, and the sink gave her something real to follow. For once, she did not try to solve the anxiety. She only noticed it. The tightness was there. The tiredness was there. The room was there too. She dried one plate, then another. She placed a cup back on the shelf. She wiped the counter. These actions were not special, but they had edges. Start, finish. Pick up, put down. Wet, dry. Messy, clean. Anxiety often has no clear edges. It spreads. A small worry becomes a full atmosphere. But simple physical tasks can sometimes give the mind a shape to rest inside. Later, she sat on the couch with a blanket over her knees. She did not turn on the television right away. She did not open her phone. For a few minutes, she let the apartment be quiet. The quiet still felt uncomfortable, but it did not feel as threatening as it had in the morning. She thought about the day. Nothing terrible had happened, but her body had lived through many small alarms. The early waking, the inbox checking, the fast walking, the lunch replay, the short message, the meeting, the bus ride, the unfinished thoughts waiting at home. No single moment was dramatic. Together, they made a full day of hidden effort. Mina leaned back and looked at the ceiling. She did not have a perfect answer. She did not suddenly become calm. But she understood one thing a little more clearly. Maybe her anxiety was not proof that danger was near. Maybe it was proof that her system had been practicing danger for a long time. The next morning would not be completely different. She knew that. Her mind might still wake early. Her chest might still feel tight. She might still check her messages too many times. But that night, she did one small thing differently. She did not accuse herself. She placed a hand lightly on her chest, not to force peace, but to notice the place where the alarm lived. She stayed there for a moment. The apartment remained quiet. The dishes were clean. The phone was on the table. Outside, cars moved through the dark like soft lines of light. For once, she allowed the day to end without solving every feeling inside it. Sometimes anxiety is not coming from one deep fear. Sometimes it is being fed by the small design of your daily life. The room, the phone, the unfinished tasks, the open tabs, the noise, the lighting, and the constant availability can all keep the mind slightly activated. These things may not look serious. A cluttered desk does not seem like a danger. A phone notification does not seem like a threat. An unfinished task on a piece of paper does not seem powerful enough to affect the nervous system. But the brain reads the environment all day. It notices what is incomplete. It notices what is demanding attention. It notices what might require action. Even when you are not consciously thinking about these things, your attention may still be touching them in the background. A messy space can quietly say, there is more to handle. An open laptop can say, work is still waiting. A phone nearby can say, someone may need you. A bright screen late at night can say, stay awake. A long list of small tasks can say, you're not done yet. None of these signals is huge, but anxiety often grows from many small signals stacked together. Imagine a desk with a half-finished drink, old receipts, a notebook, tangled cables, a laptop, 2 open tabs, a bill, and a phone. The person sitting there may be trying to rest, but the desk is still speaking. Every object has a small message. This needs action. This needs a decision. This should be cleaned. This should be answered. This should not be forgotten. The mind may not form those exact sentences, but the body can still feel the unfinished energy. It is hard to relax in a place that keeps reminding you of what remains incomplete. Digital space works the same way. Your phone is not only a tool, it is also a door to requests, comparisons, news, memories, work, entertainment, and other people's emotions. When it is always within reach, the nervous system may never fully feel alone with the present moment. Even when there are no new messages, the possibility of a message can keep you alert. Even when you are not scrolling, the phone nearby can pull part of your attention. The mind knows that at any second, something could appear. This constant possibility can make rest feel thin. The problem is not that phones are bad. The problem is that the nervous system was not designed to be reachable every moment of the day. It needs clear beginnings and endings. It needs places where nothing is asking for a response. Many anxious people do not have enough endings in their day. Work ends, but the laptop stays open. A conversation ends, but the message thread remains visible. A task is finished, but the next task is already waiting on the screen. The body never receives the signal that it can stop. Without endings, the mind stays in transition. It is not fully working and not fully resting. It is floating between tasks, still holding the weight of what might come next. This state can feel like anxiety, even when nothing is wrong. Noise also matters. Background noise, constant videos, music, traffic, conversations, alerts, and household sounds can keep the brain processing. Some people use noise to avoid uncomfortable thoughts, and that can be understandable. But if there is never any quiet, the nervous system may never get a chance to settle. At the same time, sudden quiet can feel strange if the body is used to constant stimulation. That is why it helps to create gentle quiet, not forced silence. A softer room, a slower evening, fewer inputs at once. The goal is not to remove all sound. The goal is to reduce the feeling that the mind must keep tracking everything. Light can also influence anxiety. Bright screens late at night can keep the brain alert. Harsh lighting can make the body feel exposed and awake. A room with warmer, softer light in the evening can help signal that the day is moving toward rest. Your physical space does not need to be perfect. A perfect room can become another source of pressure. The goal is not to create a life that always looks clean and controlled. The goal is to remove a few unnecessary signals of urgency. One small cleared surface can help. One closed laptop can help. One written list can help. Because the mind no longer has to carry everything in memory. One phone placed across the room for 30 minutes can help the body understand that it does not need to respond instantly. Unfinished tasks are especially important. The mind tends to return to incomplete things. If a task is vague, it becomes heavier. Fix life is too large. Reply to the email is clearer. Clean the house can feel endless. Clear the kitchen counter has an edge. Anxiety grows when tasks are unclear, because the brain cannot tell when they are complete. A vague task stays open in the mind. It keeps sending small reminders, even when you are trying to relax. So part of reducing anxiety is making life more visible and specific. Write down what needs to be done. Choose what actually matters today. Put the rest somewhere you trust. The mind relaxes more easily when it believes important things will not be forgotten. This is not about becoming more productive. It is about reducing hidden mental noise. Sometimes your anxiety is not asking for a deep emotional analysis. Sometimes it is asking for fewer open loops, a closed drawer, a finished note, a simple plan for tomorrow, a decision to leave something until morning. Your environment can either keep reopening the day or help the day close. A helpful evening might look very simple. You choose one small area to reset. You write down the tasks you do not want to forget. You turn off the main screen a little earlier. You place the phone somewhere less central. You make the room slightly softer. You let the body see that the day is no longer demanding full alertness. These actions may not remove anxiety completely, but they reduce the number of signals telling the brain to stay ready. The same principle applies in the morning. If you wake up and immediately enter messages, news, and tasks, the nervous system may start the day in reaction mode. Before your mind has settled into your own life, it is already responding to other people's information. A calmer morning does not need to be long. It may be only 10 minutes without the phone. It may be making coffee without checking messages. It may be looking at the day's plan before looking at the world's noise. The point is to give your mind a center before it meets demands. Habits can become environmental too. If you always work in bed, the bed may stop feeling like a place of rest. If you always check stressful messages on the couch may begin to feel less peaceful. If every room becomes a place for every activity, the body may lose the ability to understand where it can lower its guard. Clear zones can help. A place for work, a place for sleep, a place for eating without multitasking. These boundaries do not have to be perfect. Even small differences teach the body what kind of state belongs where. The anxious mind often wants internal answers. It asks, why do I feel this way? What does this mean? What is wrong inside me? Those questions can matter, but sometimes the answer begins outside. The room is too stimulating. The phone is too close. The task list is too vague. The day has no clear ending. The body has not received enough signals of completion. Changing the environment is not a cure for every form of anxiety, but it is a practical way to stop feeding the alarm. You do not have to redesign your whole life. Start with one signal, one object, one habit, one boundary, one small ending. A nervous system that feels surrounded by demands will stay alert. A nervous system that sees fewer demands can begin to soften. This is the quiet power of environmental design. It does not tell you to think differently. It helps your body feel differently by changing what it keeps seeing, hearing, and expecting. When nothing is wrong but anxiety is present, look around gently. Ask what your space is asking from you. Ask what can be closed, moved, written down, softened, or simplified. Peace is not only a thought in the mind. Sometimes it is a room that stops shouting. Sometimes it is a phone that no longer sits beside your hand. Sometimes it is a small, cleared corner that tells your body, for now, there is less to defend against. When anxiety appears and nothing is actually wrong, the goal is not to defeat it in one moment. The goal is to change your relationship with it. You begin to see anxiety as a signal, not a command. It can speak loudly, but you do not have to obey every sentence it gives you. This is a quiet but important shift. Many people respond to anxiety by fighting it, hiding it, explaining it, or trying to erase it as fast as possible. That reaction makes sense because anxiety feels uncomfortable. But the harder you treat it as an enemy, the more the body may believe there is a battle happening. A calmer response begins with recognition. This is anxiety. My body is alert. My mind is searching. I do not need to solve everything right now. These words are simple, but they create space. They help you stand beside the anxiety instead of being swallowed by it. When the mind says, something is wrong, you can look for evidence. Not aggressively, not with panic, just clearly. Is there a real emergency in front of me? Is there a specific action I need to take? Is this a problem, or is this a feeling? Sometimes there is a real action. You forgot to send a form. You need to make an appointment. You need to apologize, repair, prepare, or ask for help. In that case, anxiety may be pointing towards something practical. But many times, there is no clear action. There is only the feeling of danger. When that happens, thinking harder may not help. You may need to move from problem solving to regulation. Regulation means helping the body return to a state where it can think clearly again. It does not mean pretending everything is perfect. It means giving the nervous system enough safety signals to lower the alarm. You can do this in ordinary ways. Feel your feet on the floor. Loosen your jaw. Let your shoulders drop. Look at one stable object in the room. Speak more slowly. Walk at a gentler pace. Drink water. Step away from the screen. Make the next action very small. Small actions are powerful because anxiety often makes life feel too large. It turns the future into a wide, dark space. A small action brings you back to something you can actually touch. Wash one cup. Write one sentence. Put one item away. Send one clear message. Stand by the window for 1 minute. Begin with the part of life that is close enough to handle. You are teaching the mind that safety does not require total certainty. This matters because the anxious mind often waits for perfect certainty before it relaxes. But perfect certainty rarely comes. Life stays partly unknown. If your peace depends on knowing everything, peace will always be delayed. A steadier mindset says, I do not know everything, but I know enough about this moment. I am here. There is no clear emergency. I can take the next small step. This is not dramatic. It is not a grand transformation. It is a practice of returning. You return from imagined danger to the room you are in. You return from tomorrow's problems to the task in your hands. You return from old fear to present evidence. You return from the need to control everything to the ability to care for one moment. There will be days when this feels easy. There will be days when it does not. Progress with anxiety is rarely a straight line. The body may understand safety one day and forget it the next. That does not mean you have failed. It means the nervous system learns through repetition. The old alarm may ring many times before it trusts the new message. Be careful with the way you speak to yourself when anxiety returns. If you say, "Why am I still like this?" you add another layer of threat. If you say, "This is the old alarm again," you make the moment less personal. Less personal does not mean less real. The feeling is real. The tightness is real. The discomfort is real. But it may not be a real warning about the present moment. This distinction is one of the most useful skills you can build. You can respect the feeling without believing its prediction. Anxiety may predict rejection, failure, illness, conflict, loss, or collapse. Sometimes life does bring hard things, but anxiety is not a prophet. It is a protective system using limited information, old memory, and body signals to guess what might happen. You do not have to hate that system. You can thank it quietly for trying to protect you, while also refusing to let it run your whole life. This is where gentle firmness helps. You can say, "I hear the worry, but I am not going to check again. I hear the fear, but I am going to finish dinner. I hear the alarm, but I am going to let this quiet moment stay quiet." At first, this may feel uncomfortable. The mind may protest. It may say that you are being careless. It may ask for one more reassurance. But each time you stay with a safe moment without feeding the alarm, you give the brain new evidence. Nothing bad happened when I did not check. Nothing collapsed when I rested. The feeling rose, stayed for a while, and moved. This is how trust returns. Not through one perfect realization, but through many lived experiences. It also helps to build a life with more recovery, not only more control. Control tries to prevent every possible discomfort. Recovery gives you strength to meet discomfort when it comes. Control says, "I must make sure nothing goes wrong." Recovery says, "I can care for myself even when something is uncertain." A life built only on control becomes very narrow. You avoid more, check more, plan more, and still feel unsafe. A life that includes recovery becomes more flexible. You still plan, but you also rest. You still care, but you do not monitor everything. You still respond, but you do not live in constant preparation. Anxiety often softens when the body learns that it has support. Support can come from routine, sleep, movement, honest conversation, therapy, faith, creativity, nature, or simple daily order. It can come from anything that helps the system feel less alone with pressure. You do not need to use every tool. Choose what is real for your life. Choose what you can repeat. The nervous system trusts what happens often, not what happens perfectly once. There may still be anxious evenings. There may still be mornings when you wake with tightness before you understand why. There may still be quiet moments that feel strangely unsafe. But now you can meet them differently. Instead of asking, "How do I make this disappear immediately?" you can ask, "What would help my body feel a little safer right now?" A little safer is enough to begin. Not completely calm, not perfectly healed, just a little safer. Maybe that means closing the laptop. Maybe it means writing down tomorrow's first task. Maybe it means turning on a softer light. Maybe it means telling someone, "I feel anxious today, but I do not need you to fix it." Maybe it means sitting still for a moment and letting the feeling exist without making it the center of the night. Over time, these small responses change the pattern. Anxiety may still visit, but it does not have to take over the whole room. It becomes one part of the moment, not the ruler of the moment. The quiet truth is this: you can feel anxious in a safe moment and still be safe. You can feel uncertain and still move gently. You can feel an alarm in your body and still choose a steady next step. Tonight, imagine a small lamp on a desk. Around it, the room is not perfect. There are still things to do. There are still questions without answers. But the light is steady, and one small area is clear. Let that be enough for now. One steady light, one clear surface, one moment where you do not have to chase every fear. Anxiety may ask for your whole future. Give it only this moment. Then place one hand on the ordinary life in front of you and begin there.